take that extra step, innovate, take personal risk, take capital, do whatever it is they want to do, they can innovate, and they don't have the heavy hand of government over them, at least up until now. So I would consider it my primary responsibility with every vote to be voting in such a way that prevents the federal government from being an obstacle to your personal success, your expanded options, and your right to live your life as you please, as successfully as you want. And that is, I think, the primary problem we have today with our administration, which is promoting that idea. Really, it's collectivism and progressivism to new generations of Americans, and I think diluting what should be the shining example of, again, America that we have been for so many years to countries and peoples abroad. So with that, I certainly would love your support. I really thank you for listening to me this evening, and I hope you sign up on my website, which is MaryLindaGarcia.com. So that's MaryLinda. I was named after my grandmother Linda and my great aunt Maria. So my mom kind of made it up, but it's Mary Linda and Garcia, and there you can sign up to receive my newsletter, to follow my campaign. There's also a little donation portal, which is, it would be great if we could there as well. Every bit of help is appreciated. And then you can read more about me and all of these clips and what I'm up to in the community and the state. So thank you so much. I will be happy to take any questions.
Pass the questions down to this end, and we're going to collect those, and Alex will hand them over and around to I'll take your. Any other questions? Alex, why don't you collect those as they go down? I tell you, I'm going to start with one. Here we are in a real manufacturing facility that obviously has a lot of equipment that's being powered. Recently, I think it was actually December of last year, Annie Custer had a legislation that she was talking about or promoting, the Renewable Energy Standard Act of 2013, RESA, I believe it is. And one of the aspects of this law was to force suppliers to provide 25% of your electricity on a state basis by renewable sources, wind, solar, and biomass. And obviously everybody is in favor of renewable energy, but to set a standard of 25% within the year 2025, I've got to imagine, and I would ask, Jack, all these equipment that are being powered by electricity as well, it has to have some impact. So, I would ask for you, when you see it, those type of things, and the other thing, I guess, I would refine that question a little bit. Energy, in my opinion, is so critical to our future. Electronic, electric energy, but also petroleum-based and natural gas. So, if you can just speak about energy.
I couldn't agree more. In my mind, energy, there are three: energy, high tech, and then manufacturing of technology. Where those three things are combined are the three areas that I think our country can really emerge as a world leader. Again, we can boost our economic power, we can improve our national security and lessen our dependence on foreign allies and those that are sort of our allies but aren't necessarily friendly once our power decreases. And that's a way we can get our country working again. We can again become an economic powerhouse and be leaders in innovation and development in so many areas. We voted on the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative a number of years back in the state, and I opposed it, and I supported the repeal of it. And that is because my problem with these types of basically cap and trade programs is, again, they come from the federal level, and in so many ways they're motivated by a lot of ideologically driven policy that, in my view, wastes a lot of resources on promoting green initiatives that haven't been tested and have not proven true in the private market. I mean, we've seen the federal government through the first few stimulus bills waste millions of dollars on these projects such as Solyndra. We all remember that. I think it was about $600 million that went towards that. And the problem is it's very prone to be corrupt. Cronyism runs rampant and that type of thing. And most importantly is that, again, it's regulations, emissions controls, and taxes on the very people that are keeping our economy humming here in the state. I went to the Farm and Forestry Expo in Manchester a month ago or so, and I was talking to a farmer. 80% roughly of our state is covered in forest, and forestry is a huge industry, as is agriculture in our state. And there was a farmer that said, thanks to policies that came through the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, he said, my tractor that I've been using, this is very important equipment to me, that I'm supposed to maintain and, order a new one, and it serves my purpose as well. He says, who do you think would be the best steward of my private land? Like me, who cares the most about the natural resources on my land? Me. So he said, you can imagine my chagrin when all of a sudden, thanks to the hand of government and these emissions controls, I was told that the equipment that has served me so well for so many years no longer meets the standards, the criteria according to the government. And he said that is going to cost me an extra $4,000 to $5,000, and I have to pay that money, which I haven't budgeted for because I didn't know this was coming at me. He says for a subpar piece of equipment that I don't even know will work as well, but I've heard it doesn't. So that is not the type of policy I would want to be promoting. And I will say, and I don't want to speak for someone else, but my primary opponent, Senator Lambert, I admire so much of what he's done with his life and his service in our armed forces. But I was disappointed with his vote when we did have the opportunity to repeal Red V in the state. On the House side, we did it, and we were going to override the governor's veto, and he didn't support our efforts in the Senate. And that was a one-vote margin. So we had a really good opportunity to repeal that. And as to your point, because I think energy is so important, I think it's really important that what I think is, the right position on those issues be represented at the federal level. So.
The next question deals with climate change, and what are your thoughts, or do you believe in climate change?
The climate's been changing for millions of years, so I expect it will continue.
When President Obama was serving in the Illinois legislature, he showed a lack of leadership by only voting on 129 bills. How do you feel about his inaction, and specifically, what about thoughts on legislators missing votes?
In general, of course, it's our responsibility to vote, and to be present for as many votes as possible. It's unfortunate he wasn't. I don't know if that was on purpose or because something else came up. But, it's all of our duties to make sure that we are voting and being responsible to the citizens and the votes, the legislation coming across the House floor. So I make every effort to do so, though tonight, actually, I am missing some because I had to come here. So, it happens. But I certainly make every effort to be there.
What do you see as your primary role, if elected as a representative to Congress, and what actions do you foresee taking to execute this role?
I think I mentioned in my remarks I would consider it my primary responsibility to be voting in such a way as to keep the federal government from being an obstacle to New Hampshire's development and from limiting your personal freedoms and from taking more money from your pocketbooks.
We actually have another climate change question, which we really couldn't answer. You mentioned promoting business and innovation. What specific things have you done as a legislator in order to do that? And how does that translate to work at the federal level?
Two specific things that I worked on and actually passed, which was fantastic. One had to do with the first stimulus, which the implementation of which was a disaster. And from talking to some business leaders around the state, I went out and I asked them, how can I help you? How can I help you create jobs and help your businesses to flourish? And come to find out, we found out that there was approximately $15 million of stimulus money that was floating around and completely unable to be used for everything. So typical, There's the federal government taking our money and then splashing it back at us, and we weren't even able to use it. So I found out that one of the needs we had in our state was early stage capital for businesses in the state, those that are trying to get started. So what we were able to do is through the Business Finance Authority, which is not a state agency, but they were able to take those funds and allow for third-party investment to allow early seed capital to be offered to New Hampshire entrepreneurs and businesses. So I was really excited to be a part of that, and it was a way to take what would have been completely wasted money and try to do something productive with it. Otherwise, I mentioned that I was working on regulatory reform in healthcare, and come to find out, as I said, there are all of these wonderful types of specialty care facilities, ambulatory surgical centers. There are a lot of them actually in my district in Salem. And they're wonderful. They're very responsive. They're very transparent. And they're very sort of community involved and consumer oriented. And what I found was that there was a cancer center that was looking to develop a Northeast location in our state. So I welcomed here, they sent their business development team over. And through that process, I found out that we have an antiquated regulatory environment, specifically, and this is going to get really obscure, so I apologize, but in brief, it's called a Certificate of Need. And it is the result of a federal mandate in the 1980s, again, a federal mandate, that told every state that they had to put in a Certificate of Need board. So basically, that is a board of people that if you are a medical facility that's looking to build or purchase equipment over a certain number, I think recently it's been $1 million, or expand your facility, you have to apply to this board and actually get a certificate that says we need you in this state, and only then are you allowed to do that. Now that was put in place as a way to attempt to control costs and prevent overbuilding of hospital facilities, but even the federal government, I think about 6 years into it, so when I was 3 years old in 1986, decided that it wasn't working. So they actually repealed it on the federal level, but it was left hanging around in states across the country. I think about 17 of the states up until this point had repealed it. But in other states, such as ours, what's happened is, you can guess, it's become populated by members of hospitals and hospital associations, and they are the ones that sit on the board, and they are the ones that approve other hospitals and medical care facilities building and coming into our state. So as you can imagine, it's a very monopolistic system. So I worked on repealing that, and I actually was successful, but unfortunately my repeal was repealed again this past spring, so that was very disappointing. But anyway, but those are two specific instances where I was really happy to help, again, develop business and the economy in our state.
Well, that actually is all the questions I have, unless, were there anyone spoken? Tell us your thoughts on the Second Amendment.
I think the Second Amendment is one of the most important rights we have. It's your right to protect your person, your property, and your family, and it shouldn't be infringed upon in some.
All right, well, I think that pretty much wraps it up. If anyone doesn't have any other questions, Marilyn, we really appreciate you taking the time. We also want to thank Jack. Thank everyone for turning out. We greatly appreciate your attendance, and look for us to have a similar event on April 16th, and the information will be on our website. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just missed that. It said 7 someplace. I saw Facebook was 6, so I thought.
Excuse me, everyone. Would everyone want to take a picture?